Here from the Biden administration to literally avoid World War III. Here's what he said.
I'm sick and tired of hearing the administration talk about being worried about what Putin's thinking and what he's going to do. I want to hear from the administration what they're doing to put in Putin's mind a fear and a thought of what are we going to do. We're the most powerful nation on the planet. We need to telegraph that to Putin.
Echoing remarks we heard from Senator Mitt Romney, and we've heard from other lawmakers, Congressman, is there some truth to that?
So, first of all, what the Biden administration has done is put in place sanctions that are unprecedented in how comprehensive they are, how coordinated they are, and the degree of severity that their cumulative effect will have. There has never been anything like this, and I want to particularly point to the central bank sanctions that have been put into place. Deputy Secretary Adeyomo was with the Obama administration in 2014 as sort of the intellectual architecture for this was first laid out, and the central bank sanctions have been a sledgehammer on the Russian currency and economy that the Kremlin did not anticipate and frankly does not know how to respond to. So what we have in the White House right now is grown-ups who are coordinating a significant response, but who are also cautious of the escalatory potential with a nuclear armed power. I just want our listeners to imagine right now, just conceive of what it would have been like if Donald Trump were in the White House right now. This guy wanted to pull it to think highly of him. This guy tried to blackmail the Ukrainian president. I mean, my goodness. Thank the Lord that we've got Joe Biden instead of Donald Trump.
Well, I'll tell you, many of the Republican lawmakers who support Donald Trump are the very ones calling, as to your point earlier, for more military support, for more, I presume, humanitarian support after what was already passed last week. Congressman,
Kevin McCarthy is bouncing between Mar-a-Lago and Washington, D.C. I mean, I wonder what he's saying in Mar-a-Lago privately that he's not saying in Washington, D.C. publicly.
Well, since you brought that up, we can listen to what he said when, in fact, Donald Trump was going through impeachment. He was speaking on the House floor about providing money to Ukraine. Let's spin the clock back. This is Congressman Kevin McCarthy.
100% yes. OMB's response was that they disagreed with the GAO's opinion.
Let me pull that back here for 1 second here. Let's listen to it again.
100% yes. OMB's response was that they disagreed with the GAO's opinion. OMB uses it apportionately authority to ensure taxpayer dollars are properly spent. These are taxpayer dollars going to another country that people believe there was corruption with the new administration. I think it was the rightful thing to do.
A couple of years in the past, fast forward to today.
Provide them the MiG. Provide them the planes where they can create a no-fly zone. Provide them the armament that they need to continue to fight a war that they did not create.
You ever talk to Kevin McCarthy or any of your Republican colleagues about that, Congressman?
Well, I have deep engagement with a number of my Republican colleagues, including French Hill, who by the way, I think is terrific as one of the strongest voices on the Financial Services Committee. But Kevin McCarthy, I mean, you heard him a couple of years ago, quote, the rightful thing to do. I mean, it's just part of a long track record of trying to cover up for Donald Trump's depredations and incompetence. Again, thankfully, we've got an administration now that takes seriously their leadership of the free world. And let me be very clear, we're going to make this a nightmare for Vladimir Putin, and Ukraine is going to win. And we're going to be there for the long haul to help Ukraine rebuild as a sovereign, secure, prosperous democracy. But that's not done with sound bites or headlines, and it's certainly not done in Mar-a-Lago. That is done with responsible statecraft that keeps the United States out of a potential widening and deeply severe war.
You're a Marine Corps veteran. You've got Marine Corps brothers and sisters in arms on the border, the eastern flank here in Europe. How worried are you about them being pulled into this confrontation, whether it be by accident or by Vladimir Putin's intention? It might be difficult to tell in the heat of the moment, but Congressman, we're staring across the border just by a couple of miles at each other.
That's right, and we've got to dial the pressure up, but turn the temperature down. And that's what this administration has done effectively. So dial the pressure up. What does that mean? That means air defense systems to Ukraine so they can close the skies, and we can help them close the skies. That also means tightening the screws on the technical import sanctions, the financial sanctions on Russia, and particularly working with China to prevent any lifeline forming between Beijing and the Kremlin. But it also means deniable tactical cyber attacks from NATO into Ukraine. Russian command and control and logistics nodes are already struggling to invade a massive country, and they're operating sometimes over the clear, which is an incredible liability. And targeted electronic warfare attacks can really frustrate not only their air assaults, but also their ground advance. But at the same time, we need to be dialing the temperature down. That means indicating to the Kremlin that although we view cyber attacks in Ukraine against Russian forces as fair game, we are not going to be attacking Russian infrastructure in the homeland, and unless and until they attack any NATO countries first. And also clarifying through Article 4 consultations in NATO what we would consider to be an Article 5 provocation. Is it because one Russian soldier misfires, or is it because it was a deliberate invasion of territorial integrity?
It's time to answer those questions. Congressman Jake Auchincloss, Democrat from Massachusetts, it's great to have you back, sir. We appreciate your experience and insights today on Bloomberg Sound On. I'm Joe Matthew in Washington, as the congressman said. This is a day that people will remember in Washington. He was in the room for that address, and all the voices that we heard around it, you heard it all unfold live here on Bloomberg Radio.
Now I'm almost 45 years old. Today my age stopped when the hearts of more than 100 children stopped beating. I see no sense in life if it cannot stop the death. And this is my main issue as the leader of my people. Brave, brave.
Remember Pearl Harbor. Terrible morning of December 7, 1941, when your sky was black from the planes attacking you. Just remember it. Remember September the 11th, a terrible day in 2001, when evil tried to turn your cities, independent territories, in battlefields, when innocent people were attacked. Our country experienced the same every day.
The American people are answering President Zelensky's call for more help, more weapons for Ukraine to defend itself, more tools to fight Russian aggression. And that's what we're doing.
President Biden, you are the leader of the nation, of your British nation. I wish you to be the leader of the world. Being the leader of the world means to be the leader of peace.
For those of us that have been to Ukraine, to see that video, and to see those places that we recognize, and then to see the side-by-side of what they look like now versus what they look like just 4 weeks ago, was stark.
We need to be more creative and quickly in providing Ukrainians what they need to protect themselves. This does mean anti-aircraft weapons. This does mean planes. This does mean drones. This does mean everything we can possibly do to protect a country that is under siege.
I cannot remember the last time a foreign leader united a room full of members from both sides so quickly and so intensely. He spoke not just to American ears, but to America's very soul.
The words and the emotions from this day in your nation's capital, here on Bloomberg Sound On. I'm Joe Matthew in Washington. I'm glad you came by today. We're going to assemble the panel next on the fastest hour in politics. But first, we want to turn to the markets, as we mentioned with Congressman French Hill. An important day here on this Fed day with a lot of gyrations in stocks. So let's get to it right now. Bring in our friend Charlie Pellet for the update. Charlie?
Hi, thank you very much, Joe Matthew. The Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ all pushing higher. Fed Wednesday and the Russian invasion of Ukraine front and center for Fed Chair Jay Powell.
As we noted in our policy statement, the implications of Russia's invasion of Ukraine for the U.S. economy are highly uncertain. In addition to the direct effects from higher global oil and commodity prices, the invasion and related events may restrain economic activity abroad and further disrupt supply chains.
And today we did have stocks closing at session highs after Powell struck a more positive tone on the prospects for economic growth. S&P up 95, up 2.2%. The Dow up 518, up 1.5%. NASDAQ up 487, a gain there of 3.8%. 10-year yield today, we had gold at 19.27 the ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude down 1.5%, 95.04 a barrel on WTI. Again, recapping, S&P pushes higher, up 95 points, up 2.2%. I'm Charlie Pelletat. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash. Joe?
All right, Charlie, we thank you and appreciate your being with us on Bloomberg Sound On as we move to assemble the panel. We haven't heard the insights of our political minds yet and want to do so with Bloomberg Politics contributor Jeannie Sheehan Zaino, along today with John Sidolides, joining us again on Bloomberg, State Department advisor and partner with Trilogy Advisors. It's great to have you both with us here. Jeannie, I'm not sure where to start on a day like this, but we may as well pick up with Ukraine, where we left off, and the moving speech from President Zelensky, the answer, essentially, the response that we got in another presidential address from Joe Biden, and then some pretty heavy-duty criticism from Republicans on Capitol Hill. Do you feel as a Democrat like the administration is doing enough? It's doing what it can right now? Is it what Jake Auchincloss called as the adult in the room?
I do. I think they have been very tough, and I think, when the representative said the sanctions are well coordinated, severe, well organized, he talked about the central bank sanctions. I think he's absolutely right about that. They also have to be the adult in the room, as he said, and be cautious about escalation. But of course, to your point about the historic nature of what happened today and what the piece you just played where Chuck Schumer was quoted, I can't remember either hearing a foreign leader speak to members of Congress in a session like this where they joined together in such a bipartisan show of support. Sure, there was criticism about what to do about it at the end, but it was absolutely astonishing. And I think one of the gifts that Zelensky has, all three of these addresses in the UK, in Canada, now in the US, they have been targeted to the audience, and he did that again today, everything from Pearl Harbor to 9/11. It was absolutely moving.
Yeah. John, we know it was moving, it was passionate, it was authentic. Everyone agrees on that. Is the answer that the administration giving the right one?
Well, the president's job, and this is any president of the United States, is to defend the national interests of the United States of America, not of foreign countries. Where we're working with allies, especially in NATO, Joe, and also with our allies in Asia, we have shared interests, shared objectives, and shared sacrifices. But the problem for President Zelensky is that Ukraine is not a member of NATO, and we don't have the same obligation to defend Ukraine, especially given that it's up against a nuclear-powered commodity superpower in Russia. And so we have to be very prudent in how we move forward in giving Ukraine all the tools that it realistically, credibly can utilize against Russia's military. And I think what we saw today, especially to Jeannie's point, is a largely unified Senate and House of Representatives, our Congress, coming together in bipartisan fashion in defense of the principle of helping Ukraine defend itself against Russia, but then a very serious debate, again, about how we operate not just tactically, but strategically, and not just with immediate concerns to the well-being of the suffering Ukrainian people, but also the long-term interests of the United States national security-wise, our allegiance to our NATO allies, and without ever taking our eye off the long-term threat of the Chinese Communist Party.
I'm trying to understand the rhetoric here, though, John, when you've got, obviously a concerted effort here, agree with the decisions or not by this administration, a concerted effort to back Ukraine, and we've done quite a bit already, and you might think we've not done enough. But listen to Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana today get to this.
President Biden has had some Bambi's baby brother moments here.
Bambi's baby brother is how he describes Joe Biden. Senator Ted Cruz went so far as to suggest, he says that, Joe Biden caused this war.
There were two specific mistakes made by the White House that caused this war. Number one, the disastrous retreat and surrender in Afghanistan. that emboldened America's enemies. And number two, tragically, the White House's decision to waive sanctions on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline and to surrender to Putin, allowing him to complete that pipeline, which was the direct precipitating cause of this invasion.
This is going to be the theme of the midterm elections here. I'm assuming add that to the inflation knock. John, is any of that true?
I think it depends on the pace of the war. Come September, October, and early November, Joe, I don't know how long the war will last. If there are serious efforts by the Ukrainian and Russian sides to try to put together some negotiations that can lead to a credible ceasefire and an enduring one, and the war is not foremost on our minds come the fall, then I think we'll go back to the quote-unquote bread and butter issues of inflation, crime, illegal immigration, food and energy prices, and the like. If the war is continuing at that point, then it's definitely a very different political dynamic. But my preference, and this is just my own professional bias here, Joe, is that we not get into name-calling and a lot of revisionism about how we got here.
Right.
That's for the historians to debate in the years
late for that, John.
What's important is to look at the immediate crisis and what are the credible ways that we can provide anti-aircraft, anti-tank, anti-armor systems to Ukraine in a way that does not necessarily drag us into an escalation situation with Russia that could possibly lead to tactical nuclear weapons exchanges. That is something we must avoid.
We're going to get Jeannie's voice on this as well when we're back with further analysis from the panel. I didn't think Bambi had a baby brother. Is that just me? It's the fastest hour in politics. I'm Joe Matthew in Washington. This is Bloomberg.
As the sun sets in the U.S., another market day is just beginning. Bloomberg Daybreak Asia.
I'm Brian Curtis. And I'm Doug Krisner. As war in Ukraine created risks for China of weaker trade relationships with the U.S. and Europe.
And how is the global semiconductor industry managing, since many key raw materials come from Russia and Ukraine? Bloomberg Daybreak Asia, tonight at 6 on Bloomberg 1130, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Are you in possession of gold, silver, or platinum? Maybe even some rare coins or old paper money that you'd like to sell? Stack's Bowers Galleries offers top dollar with immediate cash payment and is one of the largest, most trusted and ethical dealers and auctioneers of numismatic items in the U.S. for 90 years. Come visit our location on Park Avenue between 57th and 58th today for a free, no-obligation appraisal of your precious metal bullion items, rare coins, or old paper money. Whether you're in the market to buy or sell your valuable coins or precious metal, we can help. For more information or to speak to a trusted specialist, just call us at 212-582-2580. That's 212-582-2580. We'll help turn your collectibles into a generous cash payment today. Visit us in person or online at stacksbowers.com. That's STACKS Bowers.com. Stop by one of our locations today in New York City, Philadelphia, or Boston, coming in 2022.
How are financial services firms managing in this new reality? Claire Santaniello, Managing Director at BNY Mellon's Pershing, explains.
If the current times have taught us anything, it's the critical role that technology plays in client relationships. Global conditions have created a business imperative for firms to digitally transform the way they meet client needs and the way they work. Pershing's industry-leading technology enables you to adapt to the evolving ways your clients want to do business, now and in the future. It can help you build an even stronger digital client